Okay, Ben, I don't know where you are right now, but it looks like there's a giant polar bear right by your camera. Oh, wait, that's you.
Yeah, man.
Hey.
I may be the whitest man in America right now. Just the color of the skin. Because I haven't seen the sun in so long. Good God. Since I got this camera, it's like looking at myself every day. I'm like, oh my God. I think I'm getting rid of the camera.
Yeah. I think people want to see this camera action here on the Ben Joravsky Show. I don't know if you want it in the wintertime here. Polar Bear Ben.
Polar Bear Ben. You know, I used to go through life thinking, I look in the mirror and I see Brad Pitt looking back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now I'm looking at this thing, not Brad Pitt. More like, I ain't even going to say it.
Sad shit. All right, everybody. How's it going? We're live. Your Ben Joravsky Show for Wednesday, January 6th is just moments away. But hey, first we got to thank the Chicago Reader. Thank you, Chicago Reader, for hosting the Ben Joravsky Show. Check out the Chicago Reader, chicagoreader.com. Subscribe. Fantastic source for all things the city of Chicago. Ben, you got a column every week on the Reader. Give everybody a little tease of this week's column, and we'll talk more about it later on. Yeah, let's show everybody how a tease goes.
Okay, a tease. Oh, not that kind of tease. Sorry. It's about Mayor Lori Lightfoot and how she's handled the situation with Anjanette Young, the police raid on Anjanette Young, and I talk at length about Lori and lawyers, and I'll just leave that. How about that as a tease? Lori and her lawyers. Ooh, that's what you call a tease, D. Learn.
That was one hell of a tease, buddy. All right, here we go.
Is that now the sound for teases?
I don't know. I don't know.
I just love that sound anyway.
Your song of the day comes from Frank. Very apropos, Georgia on My Mind by Ray Charles.
Well, actually, there's two Georgia songs on my mind at the very moment. I'll sing yours, Frank. Georgia, whoa, Georgia, G. And then there's the Boz Scaggs song, which is Dennis's favorite.
Yes.
Georgia, we will be together here. And now I'll go back to Ray Charles. Georgia, G. I've been singing both songs interchangeably for approximately the last, let me do the math, 24 hours? I may be off a little on the math. Don't hold me accountable to that one, folks.
Just a little bit. Frank, thanks as always for that song of the day. How did that guitar go again?
Which one? Oh, I don't think there was a guitar. It was a piano.
Oh, that's what that was? That was a piano.
Let me explain something to my millennial listeners out there. Ray Charles is a great singer, and he was a very excellent piano player. He played the piano. And so, Georgia, Gene.
I hear it now. Now that you explained it, I can hear
it. You know, genius sometimes must be annotated and explained and all that good stuff. Yeah, man.
Sounded a lot like a guitar. Just saying, jing, jing, jing. The Ben Joravsky Show starts now. What are you doing? It is Wednesday, January 6th, and live from my apartment and his attic, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, legendary Chicago journalist, Monroe Anderson. And now your host, Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this Peachy, Georgia Wednesday. And here's why. You all know why. Dems won both special election Senate seats in Georgia last night. That's why Raphael Warnock mopped the floor, and I mean mopped the floor with Kelly LaFleur. That sounds like a rap song. Mop the floor with Kelly LaFleur. Anyway, and then not too long thereafter, John Ossoff took little Davy Perdue to school. Now, that race hasn't officially been called yet, at least the last time I looked. But come on, folks. It's over. Turn out the lights. I'm going to try to do this the right way, D. Because President Donnie is a bad sport and gloats when he wins doesn't mean we should do that too. Right, D? Isn't that right? Shouldn't we be above that?
Sure.
All right. So let me go all NPR on you, okay? I'm going to pretend I am a correspondent for NPR and I'm just reading this news. And in last night's election, Democratic candidate Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff defeated their Republican opponents Kelly LaFleur and David Perdue. And meanwhile, inside they're going, yeah! Beep you!
Oh, your phone's ringing.
Oh, hold on 1 second. Let me get that. Hold on, D. Phyllis, how many times have I told you not to call me when I'm on the air? I'm so sad because the Republicans lost.
All right, well, obviously you didn't read my email going into the year 2021. No more Phyllis, but...
Phyllis, of course, for relatively new listeners to the show, is that lady the Republicans dragged out of God only knows where to go on TV and recite lines intended to scare pensioners into voting against their interests in the fair tax. And guess what?
Springfield politicians, they promise they won't tax retirement income if their constitutional amendment passes.
Yes, that Phyllis. Heck of a job, Phyllis. Good job, voters of the Northwest side, by the way.
Crossing off that New Year's resolution.
Where was I? Oh, yes. NPR. My imitation of the NPR. Well, in last night's election, the Democrats were victorious. How ironic. Ooh. Bad night for Mitch McConnell. Yes. Republican leader of the Senate. That's the same Mitch McConnell, who changes the rules as he goes along to, one, keep Obama.
Well, I'll change the rules.
Yeah. That Mitch McConnell. That one, the turtle guy. Changes the rules to keep Obama from nominating Supreme Court judge, and then changes the rules to allow President Donnie to rush forward with his nominee. Mitch is the bane of Democrats' existence, and now with the Senate in the control of Democrats, he's gone, to quote Ken Harrelson. Let's pause now to consider the refrain of every single lefty who came on this show over the last 2 years. And not just lefties, liberals. It was one thing the lefties and the liberals agreed on, D. Number one, defeat Trump. Number two, hold the House. Number three, get rid of Mitch. Well, with last night's triumph in Georgia, consider all three items completed, mission accomplished. To quote George Bush. Actually, D, I'd rather not even think about George Bush at this moment. I was following along. Yes, sir.
But can we hear your George Bush impression, though?
Oh, God, I have to conjure. Strategery. Dr. D is a great guy. I can't do Bush. I put him out of my mind. I literally put Bush out. He left in 2009. I watched that helicopter rise. I go, I'm going to put him out of my mind, and I still can make the argument that he was a worse president than Donald John Trump. I could make that argument, D. In fact, I may be making that argument today when I have my conversation with Leonard Goodman in about 2 hours. Anyway, focus, Ben, focus. I was following along last night on my little cell phone, D. I'm just watching the numbers as they come in. And at first, the Republicans were ahead because they count day of voting votes first. And Republicans, for reasons I'll never quite understand, had decided they were going to deter MAGA from voting early, voting by mail. Actually, I kind of do understand. They were doing everything they could to make it harder to vote, in the theory that if you make it harder for Democrats to vote, Democrats won't vote because they don't have the focus and determination of MAGA. That's like that old Chicago theory. If it's cold, people won't vote, which partly explains why we have municipal elections in February. Think about it, folks. Well, anyway, the Democratic voters of Georgia proved them wrong. They showed up in huge numbers. And again, just like in the presidential, they were willing to wait in line, potentially exposing themselves to COVID. And so, yes, the first votes to be counted favored the Republicans. And then the Democratic vote came in. And to quote my dear friend Norm, quote, Benny J, it's great to see the brothers and sisters show his punk ass, end of quote. The punk ass in question being Trump's, and the brothers and sisters being the black men and women of Georgia. So one more time, on the part of Democrats everywhere, and really citizens everywhere, thank you, black voters. You have saved us from ourselves again. When black people vote, good things happen, to quote Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson. For me, the news broke at about 10:45 when I got a text from our very good friend, Jacob J.K. Kaplan, executive director of the Democratic Party, telling me, quote, we won! Exclamation mark. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm just looking at the raw results, and Ossoff is behind. And J.K. said, no. Dave Wasserman called it on Twitter. Folks, let me just pause to give Dave Wasserman some love. This dude is like the Rich Miller of national politics. He knows his stuff. And not only that, he trash talks. Now, here's his tweet from last night about 10 o'clock. Quote, I've seen enough. John Ossoff defeats Senator Dave Perdue in Georgia's other Senate runoff. Democrats win control of the Senate. End of quote. This petition came when the official vote count still had Dave Perdue ahead of Ossoff. And I'm like, why was he so confident? I'll tell you why. Because he knows his stuff. And he knew where the outstanding votes were. And he knew there was no way those outstanding votes were going to Perdue, so it was game over. And then Twitter, playing by the rules, put this qualification on Wasserman's tweet, quote, multiple sources may have called this race, may not have called this race when this was tweeted. And you could take the words may out of that sentence. No one was calling that race except for Wasserman. Then Wasserman started trash talking, D. He's like, quote, feel free to slap a label on this one, Twitter. I'm going to bed. I haven't seen such a badass move since Bill Murray in Kingpin, one of my favorite movies of all time. And in that movie, Bill Murray plays Ernie Big Ern McCracken, who's this really obnoxious bowler who lets it rip. And then he turns his back before the ball, while the ball's like halfway down the alley, and cups his hand around his ear to listen to the sound of all the pins falling as he knows he's thrown a strike. He knows it without even looking at it. And that's what badass Dave Wasserman did. He made a call. He goes, I'm going to bed. Went to sleep just like that. Take a bow, Mr. Wasserman. You are a badass. By the way, Twitter still hasn't taken that thing down. Twitter, anytime you want to take that little message down. Now, I realize from this point on, we're heading into reality. As I speak, Republicans are making one last move in Congress to steal the election. And after that, I'm sure the Republicans will lose. It'll be up to the Dems to do something good with the power they have and not to pull another stunt like Obama did and all Dems did back in 2009. Just go to sleep. There's no red states, no blue states, just United States. We're all in this together. Yeah, meanwhile, the Republicans are organizing the Tea Party. We saw what happened. So you can't fall asleep. All right, enjoy the moment, Dems. And you got to get back to work. But like I said, let's just enjoy the moment for this moment. To quote Dave Wasserman and Norm, quote, I've seen enough. The brothers and sisters showed his punk ass. We've got a great show today, everybody. Monroe Anderson will be here. Oh, he's ready to take a victory walk. He predicted Georgia would go to the Dems. Remember that, D? He's getting a little tired of all you Ben Joravsky Show listeners trash talking him for all the predictions he's made that haven't come true. I'm speaking to you, Babs, and Adolfo. Adolfo's always trash talking Monroe.
And Frank, and Jay Marie, and Brianna, and...
He's ready to do the stroll, the victory stroll, the walk off. He just hit the home run. And instead of jogging, he drops the bat, and he's just watching the ball fly over the fence, and now he's walking. And now here he comes. He breaks into a slow jog around on bases. Monroe Anderson predicted both Senate races for the Dems in Georgia, and he's feeling pretty good about it.
Well, he better hurry up and run around those bases. He's going to be on shortly.
Hey, man, right now he's doing his Tai Chi. Don't interrupt him, okay? He's got to get ready for the show.
Sorry.
His Tai Chi. Anyway, Monroe Anderson will be here. We're talking all the politics of the day. He'll give us updates what's going on in Congress. But before we do that, the young man from Alton, the man that all the Senate candidates in Georgia proudly call Dr. D, with the news.
Never been to Georgia in my life. How's it going, everybody? Let's find out what's happening in Chicago and or Illinois this afternoon. We begin in Chicago, and we begin with a name from shady Chicago past. Which one? I know, there's a lot.
Take a chill pill, man.
Okay. It's not you, Rom.
I just biked around Lake Michigan.
Oh, okay. How many miles was it, Rob?
Springfield politician.
Phyllis!
Phyllis, how many times have I told you, do not interrupt the show? We're talking about Rom, not you. You had your moment, okay?
According to a new report, former Chicago Public Schools CEO Barbara Byrd Bennett. Yes, the lady who went to prison for steering $22.5 million in no-bid deals to her friends. And it looks like she was up to even greasier operations. Good Lord, Barbara. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times, Lauren Fitzpatrick, and Nadir Issa. CPS's Inspector General says in his annual report released Wednesday that Byrd Bennett orchestrated schemes that resulted in another $10.1 million in public school contracts going to her friends' companies. Say what you will. Sounds like a damn good friend. The findings come 6 years after the school's chief former, whom Rahm Emanuel chose and affectionately called B3, abruptly resigned. Byrd Bennett, 71 years old, got out of prison in early May after serving nearly 3 years of her 4.5-year sentence in a low-security facility thanks to a federal policy aimed at sparring nonviolent offenders from the coronavirus. Ben Joravsky, take us back to the days of B3, which, by the way, for the record, does sound like a nickname that you would come up with yourself. Are you surprised by the latest report?
No, I'm not surprised at all. And yeah, there was a moment in suddenly I found myself doing Obama. There was a moment in the early days of Rahm's reign where he was giving nicknames to his school appointees. Yeah, he was doing that. He's taking a page from me. Remember, before B3, Barbara Byrd Bennett, there was JC. I think it was George Claude. I forgot his last name.
Van Damme? The karate kicking guy?
No, not him. Frank will help me. I know someone out there will help me. I forgot the dude's name, man. Anyway, he was JC, and then there was B3. And listen, I've said this all along consistently. B3's purpose, a largely political purpose, was to be the front person for school closings. And Rahm needed someone, preferably a black person, to be the figurehead who announced the closings that Rahm was determined to go through with because he wanted to show the world, oh my God, some things never change, how tough he was. How tough he was on education. We don't need all these schools. We don't need all these teachers. Let's close some schools. Let's fire some union teachers. Let's open some charter schools and hire some non-union teachers. And that was part of the game. I'm going to show how tough I am. And he was cheered on by civic and corporate Chicago. And B3 was the person whose job it was to say, they would give her a script and she would say something like, we've done a long study and we've done careful analysis and we have determined that it's in the best interest of the children to close these schools and take kids who live in one area and move them to another area and consolidate schools. And they will thank us for this down the road, and they'll have more resources. Well, of course, none of that happened. They didn't take the money that they saved by closing the school and used it to buy more resources. They just took the money that they closed the school, what, to waste it? To give it to TIF deals? Somehow, but that was her job. Just say what was given to her And in return, I've always said this, Rahm and his people just kind of looked the other way at the growing evidence that she may have been up to no good with contracts. They just kind of looked the other way because they needed B3. Rahm was out skiing in Utah when the announcement came down that they were closing 50 schools. He was skiing on a family vacation. He could have waited to come back and made the announcement himself. Oh no, not Rahm. Thought he was slick. So he had B3 do it. And then she went down. And then he was shocked. I'm shocked that this corruption would exist. I cannot believe it existed. I'm stunned and very disappointed. Man, every reporter in town, well, not every reporter. Let's give a shout out to Sarah Karp. She, the Bulldog investigative reporter, education reporter for NPR now. At the time, I think she was working for Catalyst. Anyway, Sarah Karp was letting the world know. How come Sarah Karp knew, Rahm Emanuel, what B3 was up to with these contracts, but you didn't? Because you didn't want to know. That's why. So it's always good to remember the games they play at the Chicago Public Schools, unchanged, by the way, since the days of Daddy Daley, and how they're still playing those games right now with opening and closing the school with the pandemic, with all the report. Oh, we all assuring teachers, oh, we know what we're doing, just like they assured the parents and teachers, oh, we know what we're doing, we're closing these schools. You know, oh, we've got the best and the brightest leaders from metropolitan Chicago sitting on the school board. They know how to handle budgets. They know how to look at contracts. Meanwhile, a $20 million budget out the window, some scam. Sarah Karp knew about it, but apparently the board was baffled. Ooh. So anyway, that's B3. I'm not surprised. They're still digging up evidence. I don't know why it took them so long to come up with this latest, but I am not surprised. You asked me, was I surprised? And the answer is negatory.
Yeah, I'm still waiting on a friend to just give me $1 million. Just waiting on any of my friends listening. Come on, where are you at?
Yeah, come on, man. We could all use some friends like that. Remember B3? She was the one. What was her famous quote? I have tuitions to pay and casinos to visit. Oh. Was it an email or a text that I think it was an email that she wrote to her partners in crime, literal partners in crime. I have tuitions to pay and casinos to visit. Apparently, she was paying the tuitions for her grandkids to go to school, and she had to visit those casinos. Oh, God, what a city! What a city I live in. And now we're told, forget all about B3. Forget all about those 50 school closings. Forget all about Rahm and the board. This time, we got it right. This time you can believe CPS. When they swear up and down, I know we're going to get to this later, D. When they swear up and down, it's safe to open the schools. Don't listen to Troy LaRaviere. He's just a troublemaker. Listen to us, because we know we're wise. Just like we were wise with B3.
And, speaking of B3, like I said, you and Rahm may have something in common there with a nickname given. That just sounds like a total Ben Joravsky nickname.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever come up with a good one like B3. I mean, look at the ones I've come up with. Dr. D.
Yeah, that's not one of your best.
I actually think Dr. D is pretty good. Remember Dr. Dog?
Yeah, that was...
that may have been my worst nickname of all time, Dr. Dog.
Dr. Dog. Yeah, that one's pretty bad. Like JT, I guess you just do initials.
Initials. Come on, man. JT is good. Even JT calls herself JT now. SDG. For 10 trivia points, D, who is SDG?
Stephen Dartmouth Garfield. All right, more CPS news. More CPS news. CPS news that also involves someone living high on the hog. Another Nadir Issa story from the Sun-Times. The headline reads, Ghost Payroll Scheme earned CPS technician $122,000 while doing no work and living in California.
Oh,
It's been revealed that a former Chicago Public Schools computer technician was paid nearly $122,000 over 2 years while primarily living in California and doing virtually no work at all. The American dream. According to an inspector general's investigation that found her school principal was aware of the situation, but did nothing. She pulled off what the inspector general called a, quote, ghost payroll scheme by having one of her colleagues, a clerk at the school, clock her in and out to make it look like she was going to work. The computer tech may have made a couple trips back to Chicago in those 2 years and might have even worked those days, the report said. Aside from that, she was on the West Coast. Surfing? Maybe. I don't know. And not working that entire time, pulling in $121,893 in unearned wages for 356 working days. The staffer self-dealt another $237,000 from the school system through a printing company that she and her husband helped manage that sold goods to 14 CPS schools, including her own, in a scheme that prompted a 2015 investigation by CPS's Office of Inspector General, which released its findings on Wednesday. The ex-technician wasn't named in the report, nor were the elementary school where she worked or the principal who she worked for. No criminal charges have been filed. Ben, your thoughts, and why am I kind of jealous of this lady?
Well, I mean, I can understand why you're kind of jealous. We all want to be sitting on the edge of the ocean, sitting on the deck of the bay. Come on, D. Oh, it's in time. We all want to be doing that. We don't want to be in this, ice bowl, where it's, snows and then rains and then the rain turns to slush and then it freezes over and you slip when you walk. We don't want to do that. We want to be out in sunny California with our sunglasses on. I wouldn't look like, a polar bear if I was out in sunny California. So yeah, that's why you're a little jealous. Oh man, what is with it? What is with human beings, D? You know what I'm saying? It's like, why did they think this was a good idea? She had a good job. Why not just do the job? I don't know. It's like you got $122,000 a year to be a computer tech. That's more money than I've ever made. I know it's more money. Well, these days, Dennis is making big time money, but it's still not as much money as you've ever made in your life. So, D, I don't know. I can't understand human beings. And it's stuff like this, it has the same thing with Barbara Bird Bennett. It's like it's so hard to get society to commit money to fund public education. You know what I'm saying? It's just like folks, it's like they think it's a waste of money. Rahm Emanuel himself, allegedly, I should say, because he denies he said this, but of course nobody believes him, sat down with Karen Lewis soon after he became mayor of the city of Chicago and said he didn't even know why we bothered worrying about some of the kids in Chicago public schools, because 25% of them won't graduate anyway or won't amount to anything anyway. I can't remember the exact quote she said, but that's kind of the attitude. Bruce Rauner was quoted as saying, making a similar offhand remark to Diana Ravitch at a luncheon not too long thereafter. It's like this attitude that it's just a waste of money. The kids in the system won't do anything, won't go anywhere anyway. It's like this nihilistic attitude. So why do we even spend the money? Why do we even spend the time? It's so hard to get people to commit. It's like pulling teeth. And so then we get stories like this, and we could say, well, 122,000 is, a fraction of the billions of dollars of the budget, but symbolically, it has, a resounding impact. It'll be quoted, D. You watch. It'll make the rounds. Oh, you won't believe what's going on in Chicago. And Republicans all over the country go, why do we give any of our money? In fact, I bet you DB's all over this story. DB, our favorite Republican, Darren Bailey from downstate. I bet he's all over this story. So, yeah.
I'm all over it, man. Like shit on a hole.
I just want to say, DB, you got your paw out too. I read Danny Mahopoulos' story about you and getting the subsidies, federal subsidies for crops. So I just it's just double impact. Just cannot believe how this person would think was it a he or a she? I can't remember. Did they identify? Whatever.
It was a she. It was a she.
Yeah, that she would get away with it. And it wasn't good enough just to make 122,000, but just the compounded effect of turning people against the Chicago public schools and the kids that go there is even more of a crime. So thanks for nothing, computer techie.
All right, I'd love to sit here and talk more about this, but we do have breaking news. All hell is breaking loose at the U.S. Capitol at the moment. So we're going to talk about it. The U.S. Capitol is on lockdown amid a tense situation with demonstrators outside the building. According to Capitol police officers, as President Donald Trump supporters attempt to break into the building while lawmakers count the Electoral College votes, certifying President-elect Joe Biden's win. So this is happening as we speak here.
Well, I know Monroe will be giving us updates because I'm sure he's following this one right now. Of course, I'm not following it at all. And, oh, man, why am I not surprised, D? The Proud Boys riot, what was that, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? Which ended up with a man defending himself. You probably saw the footage, stabbed, I think, 2 or 3 Proud Boys. It's funny, I'm not seeing the Republicans, coming to his defense. Like they did with the shooter in Kenosha. But yeah, we'll follow this one, D. This just what you said sounds pretty scary.
Yeah, it's going down as we speak here. We'll try to keep you posted on this as today's program rolls along. So let's just go back to the local news. And guys, if you wanted more Chicago school coverage on the Ben Joravsky Show in 2021, oh boy, you better strap in. You're getting it this week. More news on the current rift between the Chicago Public Schools and the Chicago Teachers Union. CPS would like the teachers to return to the classroom during a pandemic right after the holiday season when people socially gathered more than likely more than any time since this damn dirty coronavirus began. The CTU in response said, what are you, crazy? Hell no, we won't go. CPS then said that the teachers will be punished for not showing up, but not fired, whatever that means. And I'm sure Ben will give you more details in moments. But here we are today, and the following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times and Mitch the Dude Dudek.
Okay, for the record, I did not come up with that nickname. Okay, when we get the cease and desist letter from Mitch Dudek's mother or lawyer or
That's
whoever,
cool. That's cool. You better not sue. That's cool. The dude.
Dudek.
He's the dude.
Here we go for 10 trivia points.
Big Lebowski. All right. Okay. The Chicago
Ladies and gentlemen. Wow. Go ahead.
The Chicago Teachers Union Wednesday slammed Chicago Public Schools officials over their treatment of teachers who were forced to wait a return to working in person this week for the first time during the pandemic. During an early morning news conference, way before Ben woke up, CTU Deputy General Counsel Thad Goodchild said, quote, "We are here this morning to underscore for the public how absolutely callously CPS has treated educators who have requested accommodations or leave. Virtually all leave options are unpaid, so CPS is really forcing them to choose between their safety and their livelihood." Also, according to Goodchild, roughly 1 in 3 educators directed to report to schools Monday requested a leave of absence or for special accommodations to work remotely. Records show CPS has denied about 60% of requests for remote working and leave, and despite the school district's claim, it granted all remote work requests for employees with medical conditions that place them in a high-risk category. Goodchild went on to say that CPS has, quote, "been especially cruel towards employees who have requested leaves or accommodations due to a family member being in the high-risk category for COVID-19. CPS has rejected approximately 85% of remote work accommodations for employees with members of their households with fragile health conditions and told employees they must report to work in person while their request is pending."
Yeah, folks, I mean, how do I explain this? The world of Chicago public education that you read about in the newspaper, and where you have these really well put together officials who come before the cameras and assure you that they know what they're doing, like these carefully crafted public relations spectacles, and that they've dotted every I and crossed every T. And then they drag out health experts that essentially say, completely contradict everything they're going to say in regard to like Thanksgiving dinners, right? Don't go to Thanksgiving. Don't let grandma come to Thanksgiving because either she'll infect you or you'll infect her. It's horrible. It's terrible. The front page story in the paper, Mayor Lori Lightfoot saying we don't have enough vaccines in Chicago. But then when it comes to the public schools, they drag out some doctor who says, well, we've done studies. The studies show that actually it's the safest place to be. In fact, I'm going to recommend to everybody in the city of Chicago, what you should do is go to a public school. Right now, you'll be safer. It's even safer than Thanksgiving dinner with grandma. It's just like folks are scared, you know? And just telling people you have no reason to be afraid. We're not going to listen to your concerns. We don't care about your concerns. If you don't show up, we're going to fire you. Or if we don't fire you, we'll just deny you the money. That's not going to alleviate people's concerns. So I don't know. And then they go, now the latest thing is, well, the Catholic schools did it. I mean, the Catholic schools teachers just went. They shut up and did it. So you shut up and do it. I don't know. I never heard, you know what, and all the coverage of like charter schools that open, Catholic schools that open, I never recall really hearing interviews with any teachers. You know what I'm saying? It's always like a boss who says, our teachers really are dedicated and they're happy to be here. And they don't care if they're potentially exposed to COVID because that's the kind of professionals they are. No, they're not even professionals, like missionaries. So it's like, I don't know what the truth is with the Catholic schools. And ladies and gentlemen, neither do the people who run the Chicago public schools. I just know that when you have a situation in Chicago where your teachers are in a union and the union is representing their interests and teachers are legitimately concerned and the union is asking the Board of Education to work with them and the Board of Education is not working with them and instead giving them ultimatums and using their supporters in the press to bash the teachers, or at least bash the teachers union. Why would the teachers believe it? And by the way, and one more point. I've been writing about a certain teacher in Chicago public schools. I've not mentioned her name because I don't trust CPS to deal with a teacher without punishing her, like who's critical. I just don't trust them. Anyway, a friend of a friend, she's pregnant, and she's asked to be exempted, and she still has not gotten a response as to whether she'll be exempted, whether a pregnant woman is at risk in the classroom. And she's related. I just got a text from her. The latest is that she was told that like the week of that she's supposed to report to school, they'll get back to her. So how is an example like that? And there's countless examples like that with scores of teachers in the public schools. How is that going to make people feel confident that CPS knows what it's doing? This was the point that Troy LaRaviere was making. So I don't know, D. It's really hard. Again, just want to point out, we just got done talking about B3. It was a similar case. Oh, don't believe what Sarah Karp writes in the newspaper. B3 is a professional. The Board of Education is run by leaders of Civic Chicago. Rahm Emanuel is a wise leader. They know what they're doing when they close 50 schools and give $20 million for a principal training contract that the principals are all saying is a bunch of garbage. That's, by the way, whoops, just get rid of this right here. That's how Troy LaRaviere first came to attention. He was one of the few principals who spoke out against that contract. He was right. B3 was wrong. Rahm was wrong. The Board of Education was wrong. And you know what they did? They waited about a year and then they fired him. There you go. How about that for how about having faith in the Chicago public schools? The guy points out that schools are dirty, so maybe that it wasn't a good idea to outsource contracts to private vendors who did a crummy job in relation to the old janitors that they had. Then the dude points out that the $20 million contract that they gave for principal training was a joke. He was right in both instances. And what do? They fire him. Hey, a lot of confidence in the Chicago public schools. That's the Chicago way. You speak out, we fire you. So I don't blame the teachers and the principals when they don't trust the powers that be who run our schools. I don't blame them at all. Uh-oh, train going by.
Train going by. And yeah? Ben, are you there?
I am here.
The newsroom's flagging me down. I guess we got more updates here. What's going on nationally? Hold on, everybody. Let me run to the newsroom. This better be good. Hold on.
Hey, come on. Give me the story. We're live.
Thank you. All right. We have the update here. Following comes from theguardian.com. The House and the Senate have now both recessed due to concerns about pro-Trump protesters breaching the Capitol, as Capitol Police issued instructions to lawmakers and staffers on how to safely amid the chaos. Donald Trump sent a tweet criticizing Mike Pence for not trying to circumvent the will of American voters by blocking the certification of Joe Biden's victory. All right, so we are now witnessing the Donald Trump throw everybody under the bus plan before things end here. Mr. Pence, get under that bus.
Yeah, no, this is insane. News is just breaking like crazy while we're here on this show. You guys, could you be a little more convenient to the Ben Joravsky show? We're doing this live. Here's a pro-Trump protesters storm Capitol, halting vote certification. Pence is rushed out. McConnell denounces effort to overturn elections, so that's good. At least Mitch McConnell spoke up, but it's kind of frightening. I'm looking at the pictures here of the protesters with their storming the Capitol. And then the other breaking news I just saw this is that Merrick Garland, Joe Biden says he's going to pick Merrick Garland as his attorney general, which is, I don't know if irony is the right word, but Merrick Garland, of course, is the judge from Lincolnwood, proud graduate of Niles West High School. And President Obama had nominated him to be the Supreme Court justice. And of course, Mitch McConnell would not allow his vote to come before the Senate. Who was it that predicted? Somebody I was talking to yesterday predicted that. I think it was Marge Halpern may have been predicting that. When I was booking her for the show, that Biden is waiting to see what happens in Georgia before he announces his attorney general nominee. So, hey, Mitch McConnell won't be around to block Merrick Garland's appointment this time. So what goes around comes around. But this is scary stuff, D. You're right, coming out of Washington. Pence is rushed out of Congress after pro-Trump protesters stormed the Capitol.
Yeah, we do have a tweet from Donald Trump as well of him throwing Mike Pence under the bus. I have his Twitter profile pulled up here. Hang tight. I got it on my window. Let's pull it up. Okay, here we go. We're on his Twitter feed. Here's the tweet from Trump.
Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution, giving states a chance to certify a corrected set of facts, not the fraudulent or inaccurate ones which they were asked to previously certify. USA demands the truth.
Yeah. Donald Trump is crazy, folks. I think we all know that by now. Donald Trump cannot stand to lose, and he knows he lost. And so on one level, D, I think this is just an attempt for Donald Trump to walk away and be able to say, 40% of America doesn't think I lost, so I didn't lose. So he can always go to a room filled with people, and he can say, I didn't lose, and they'll all cheer. They'll tell him what he wants to hear because they bought into his cult. It's so one of the strangest things I've seen in all my years of watching politics. And I say this, when I look at the record of Donald Trump compared to George W. Bush, I'm not sure that Donald Trump overall caused more damage and destruction than Bush. No, I would argue that Bush caused more destruction and damage than Trump. But what's more frightening about Trump is that Bush didn't inspire this cult-like following. Like, follow Trump wherever he goes, whatever he says, regardless of whether he has anything to back it up or not. Just walk off a cliff with Trump. It's the Republican Party has lost it has lost control of itself. And where was it? DB. Our good friend DB, Darren Bailey, downstate Darren, was calling Adam Kinzinger a traitor and denouncing Adam Kinzinger. No, saying that he can be looked to have a primary opponent the next time he runs for Congress, he runs for re-election, which would be in 2022. And Adam Kinzinger, just so you know, is the Republican congressman from the 16th Congressional District. And I admit, I brought on many people to this show, many Democrats, Danny B., many others, Heidi Henry, who've opposed Adam Kinzinger. We're working hard to unseat Adam Kinzinger. So I'm not a supporter of Adam Kinzinger, but I got to say that at least he has the guts to speak up against what Trump's trying to do. And as a result, this is how insane the Republican Party has come. You got Big DB going around saying, we're going to run someone against him in the primary. What? Because he didn't sign on to this fraudulent canard that somehow or other there was fraud in this election that denied Trump the election? You just didn't make up evidence that to justify your wacky myths? He didn't sign on to it out of fear like the rest of you? He expressed a little independence. You would think the Republicans would say, well, remember the old Republicans? We were a big tent. We allow all kinds of people in our tent. So we agree to disagree. That was the Republican Party that was trying to win a legitimate majority of the vote. Now the Republican Party doesn't care. They figured out, well, we can get elected. The Electoral College is biased in our favor, so we don't even need to get a majority of the vote. We don't care of the overwhelming number of Black people and Asian Americans and Hispanic Americans vote against us. We just need our little core to elect us in just enough states to win. That's all we need. So that's the Republican Party we have now. You know, so it's frightening stuff, D, and really frightening stuff that Mike Pence now. Donald Trump is going after Mike Pence. That guy has been so loyal to Trump. Oh, you know what I'm saying? It's unbelievable. Michael Cohen said it. Michael Cohen said it. He goes, if you get in bed with Trump, it's not going to work out well for you. And he goes, I know, because I'm in the federal penitentiary. Michael Cohen is, of course, Trump's lawyer, his shakedown lawyer. The guy was paying off the porn star, well, Stormy Daniels, all the good days of the early Trump administration. Huh, D? What was Stormy Daniels' lawyer's name? What a sleaze. Anyway. So, scary times when Mike Pence, and I'm sorry, I know I just can't go there right now to like congratulate Mike Pence. You know what I'm saying, D? I just like, well, at least he's not as bad as what, Darren Bailey, who, by the way, is the leader of the Republican Party in the state of Illinois. We have Mike Madigan updates, D? We have a Mike Madigan update coming?
I didn't have it prepared, know, with this breaking news going on. I figured it'd be crazy not to talk about it. You know,
we got to talk about the breaking news. You're absolutely correct. Good news judgment on your part. But I'm just thinking about it because I saw a quote in the paper from Jim Durkin, the Republican out of Elmhurst or out of DuPage County, who was trying to convince Democrats to join his reform campaign to be elected speaker. And I'm like, really? Democrats are supposed to join with you? When are you going to speak out against Trump? When are you going to speak out against these Proud Boys storming Congress? When is the Republican Party of Illinois going to take a stand? I got 3 Republican legislators. Mary Miller, this thing, Frank, I want to thank you for sending this to me. It's outrageous. I've already gotten 3 different people sending me this. Read this, read this. Everybody wants me to read this thing. Mary Miller, the newly elected congresswoman from Southern Illinois, gave a speech. She goes, quote, if we win a few elections, we're still going to be losing unless we win the hearts and minds of our children. This is the battle. Hitler was right on one thing. He said, whoever has the youth has the future. I'm like, that's like a joke. Like comedians do that. Well, say what you will about Hitler, and then whatever follows is not going to be good because the preamble is like setting you up. Nope, really don't want to use Hitler as somebody we're quoting, okay? But, where are the Republicans to denounce Mary Miller? When's the Chicago Tribune editorial board so up in arms about Michael Joseph Madigan going to denounce the thugs? Yeah, I said it, D. I found my inner Donald Trump. The thugs who've taken control of the Republican Party. Don't see it coming anytime soon, Dennis. Don't see it coming anytime soon.
Right, Monroe Anderson's going to be coming on in moments, and we're going to be talking more about that. Like I said, this is just breaking as the show is going on here. More and more going on here. So we'll end it out with some statewide news here. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker.
Big problems become big problems when you let small problems sit.
And it's funny you say that, Governor. You see, for quite some time now, our Democratic governor has had a small problem brewing downstate. And the problem, people downstate pretty much hates your guts, bro. And with this re-election campaign coming up shortly, it may be time for Governor Pritzker to try and mend the fence here because we have a new hire in the Governor Pritzker administration. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times. And Fran the Woman Spielman? Nope. Tommy Two Joint Schuba? Oh, you wish. Mitch the Dude Dudek? Maybe. But it's not. It's Andrew Sullender. I don't have a clever nickname for that guy.
I like Tommy Two Joint Schuba. I'm surprised Tommy didn't break this story, He's been on a roll.
The head from Andrew Sullender, the headline reads from Andrew Sullender, downstate Democrat leaving state Senate to advise Pritzker on downstate. State Senator Andy Manar of downstate 618 Bunker Hill announced Monday that he will resign from his legislative seat effective January 17th, but gave no reason for the move in the statement that he released. A short time later, the governor's office issued a statement that Manar would be joining the administration as a senior advisor on, quote, downstate economic revitalization, appropriations, and COVID-19 recovery efforts. Manar was first elected to represent the 48th District in 2012. He is one of only 6 downstate Democrats in the current state Senate. Republicans hold 12 downstate Senate seats. And welcome, Andy Manar, the downstate czar. Manar has served as one of the Democratic caucus's point people on education and the budget. He is chairperson of the Senate's Appropriations Committee and was an architect behind the state's evidence-based funding model for public education, which was implemented in 2017. Manar, 45 years old, is scheduled to assume his role on January 19th. And sources close to no one that don't exist at all are saying that Manar's first task at hand as the downstate czar, going all around the state and marking out the sucks in the Pritzker sucks signs and changing it to rocks. Pritzker rocks.
That's kind of hard. I'm trying to think of change the S to the R and the U to the O. That's pretty funny, D. Andy Manar is also, people don't know this, Dennis's favorite state senator.
Absolutely.
For as long as I've known you, like, when we would talk about downstate, you go, Andy Manar is from downstate. You know that, Ben, don't you? Are you aware of that? Well, no, I wasn't aware
my
of that.
high school used to play basketball against his high school. Did you know that?
And I go, no, I didn't know that. It's the first time you've told me that today. But anyway, yes, and I think your instincts were absolutely correct when Dennis and I were talking about this yesterday. Somehow or other, we had so much news yesterday, we didn't get to it yesterday. But your instincts were absolutely correct. J.B. Pritzker may have been born at night, but he wasn't born last night. He realizes in a heap of trouble downstate. He reads the CCSO saying Pritzker sucks signs. Somehow or other, J.B. Pritzker's efforts to keep Illinois residents from polluting each other, from passing COVID to each other, have resulted in people despising him downstate. And one thing leads to another, and everything else that has happened is just feeds off that. The fair tax. It's just one more time to go back to keep the stories together. That's why I really just shake my head. We're still in the middle of this pandemic. We still don't have enough vaccinations to really protect people. We don't know when it'll end. We're being told that we're running out of beds in some states. It's a dire situation. Yet, let's open those schools right now. And then they drag in the experts to completely contradict everything the other experts are saying. No, listen to us when you say this. Anyway, so Andy Menard, he knows. I'm with you, D. I think this was a strategic move by J.B. Pritzker to try to figure out what he has to do to sort of win back some downstate voters who really turned against him. And it's not just downstate voters. All Chicago, I've discovered this, has a tendency to view any part of the state that is not directly in the Chicago area as downstate. So they'll go, downstate Congressman Adam Kinzinger, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, the technicality, he's actually north of Chicago. That is upstate. I'm as guilty as anyone. You know, I mean, I would care. I go to like Chicago, Skokie, love Skokie, Evanston. And that's pretty much, no, Lincolnwood. Because New York Bagels and Bialys. Have you ever had the Bagels and Bialys in New York Bagels and Bialys, D?
No.
Ramona and I were talking about it last week, and I rushed. Talking about it, got it. Anyway, that's pretty much where I go. So I don't know from downstate or upstate. But I do know that in upstate, too, they got Pritzker suck signs. And this will tie it all together. A lot of this has to do with the 10-year effort by the Republican Party to turn Michael Joseph Madigan into the monster. And since Michael Joseph Madigan seems unwilling to defend himself, the monster just grows. So people really dislike him downstate. And so they're going to use that against J.B. Pritzker as well. J.B. Pritzker's like, better do something about this. The election's, 2 years? 1 year, right? Let me do the math. Hold on, D.
Go.
2022. We're at 20,000. 1 year.
Nice.
Oh, my God. Well, yeah. Hey, come on, man. I went to Evanston High School, okay? Did I tell you I took freshman algebra at Evanston High School? Yeah. Did I ever tell you that? So if X is Y and Y is Z. Anyway, so yeah, I think this is clearly an attempt by Governor Pritzker to try to figure out. Now the big issue, of course, is who will be named to replace Andy Menard as state senator. And I have a lot of sources, D, from downstate, and many, many sources. They call me up and go, man, here's the latest from downstate. Let me just give you the update. And the leading candidate so far to replace Andy Menard is your Uncle Eldon.
Oh, my uncle Eldon? My uncle. Really? Down there, little Benny.
Ladies and gentlemen, Monroe Anderson has joined us. I think we should take a break, D, and bring the pride and joy of Gary, Indiana on the show. What do you think?
Absolutely. Let's do it. We'll be right back, everybody. Remember, you can download previous Ben Joravsky shows, Benny J bonus interviews, and so much more at the Chicago Reader website, chicagoreader.com, and wherever else you download podcasts. And, hey, if you listen on the download, check us out live sometime. The Chicago Reader YouTube channel. That's where you can find us Tuesdays through Fridays, 1 until 3 p.m. Central Time. The Chicago Reader YouTube channel, and join the live stream chat. We're going to take a quick break here. Follow us online at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show, by the way. When we come back, Monroe Anderson. It's the Ben Joravsky Show. Hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you by the Chicago Reader and the Chicago Federation of Labor. Benny J, take it away.
When Monroe Anderson and I had our pre-show prep conversation, we had a whole bunch of things that we were going to talk about. And since we had that pre-show prep conversation, Monroe, so much has happened in the world. I'm just going to run down a list. I just, during the break, took a list of things that have happened since we went on the air with the show. One thing, it's announced that Joe Biden will select Merrick Garland as his attorney general. Number 2, which really should have been number 1, MAGA thugs storming Congress. They're like in the halls of Congress with their little Trump signs.
No, they have whisked the leadership into bunkers.
Into bunkers. Pence was whisked out. Pence wouldn't support the coup. It was released officially that he was not going to support the coup. He said, I can't do this. He was up all night with his constitutional scholars. I could have told him there was nothing in the... and then this one is just so... I know it's almost like... doesn't even rank in these top 4, but just goes to show you how insane the Republican Party is right now. A newly elected Republican congresswoman from downstate Illinois on the floor, quoting Hitler. Did you see this one, Monroe?
No, I didn't see that one. Right.
Oh, she's quoting Hitler. Well, as Hitler once said, I'm like, lady, has it ever occurred to you it's not a good idea to quote Hitler? Say what you will about Hitler, but Monroe, I mean, we were going to talk about Georgia. We were going to talk about the black vote. We were going to talk about the future of the Democratic Party, the Senate.
Well, you'll be glad to hear that Trump has tweeted that to his people that they're going too far.
I don't believe. Did he actually say they've gone too far? Those words came out.
That's the sentiment. Let me see if I can get an actual tweet.
I'm having a hard time believing that Trump said he went too far. First of all, he was the one who told him to show up.
Yeah, I know.
You know, and he's the one that's been going around the country.
I guess they were supposed to show up and threaten.
Well, they followed his advice. They showed up. They threatened. There was pictures of them like climbing the walls, waving the Trump flags.
There's glass breaking in there. They're in the Senate. They're on the Senate floor.
Wow, they're on the Senate floor.
Some of the Congress people, Senate or House, I'm not sure, have been seen praying. They're so scared.
Wow. Well, here's the Trump's tweet. I just saw it. Please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement. They are truly on our side, on the side of our country. Stay peaceful. What a joke.
Right. Oh, I know.
What a joke.
Oh, I know. No, it's incredible. Now this is the Law and Order crowd, remember?
Yeah.
Well, the Law and Order president. And they're attacking Capitol Police. I'm now seeing pictures of signs. Oh, yeah, they've occupied the Capitol, the Senate. They've occupied the Senate. They're in there with signs, red caps. It's not a lot of them so far. It's only about 10 or 15.
Well,
they breached the, they have the metal detectors, and they breached those. And Pelosi and the mayor of D.C. has called for the National Guard to be brought in.
I thought the National Guard was already on standby. I thought they'd already been brought in.
I think they were protecting the streets of D.C. They didn't realize they needed to protect the Capitol.
Yeah, no. What a curious.
It's been evacuated. It's the first time it's been evacuated since 9/11.
Curious.
It really looks great for all those countries around the world that we go to and sermonize about how they need to be a democratic society with a peaceful transition of power.
Absolutely. It's really hard to show the United States as a model of anything right now.
Right.
Donald Trump lost the election. He knows he lost the election. He lost the popular vote by 7 million votes. There's absolutely no substance whatsoever to the made-up fantasies of MAGA that somehow or other votes were stolen. And yet he continues to preach that fantasy, and people buy into it. And I'm like, why are they so invested in Trump? Would you explain that to me, Monroe? You're our Trump expert. You're our Trumpologist. 4 years of Trump. Yeah. Why is MAGA so invested in this man?
MAGA are the Republican politicians.
Well, we'll talk about MAGA first, because I think the Republican politicians, it's cowardice on their part. But why is MAGA so invested in them?
2040. The year 2040.
And
America will no longer be majority white.
And that's what this is about, ultimately.
Ultimately. Yeah, and what makes it really bad for them, is that these cities with Black and brown populations kicked Trump out of office.
Yeah.
And so it's beginning already. White people losing their power. And they have all these grievances now. In fact, I'm surprised you aren't complaining, Ben, about how, as a white man, you've been discriminated against, and you're being denied things because of the color of your skin.
Well, by the way, the color of my skin, as you can see, is really pasty white these days. I haven't seen the sunshine in so long since I got this camera, Monroe. You better even comment on the camera, okay? I got this camera, so you can see me.
Right.
Yeah, and so yes, I have definitely.
Are you on air with it?
Yeah, no, we're not. Everything is audio. There's no word. That's further down the road when we actually go on air. Speaking as a very pasty white man, I just got to say the white man has not been that great to me, Monroe. I'm just throwing that out there, okay? I'm in my attic overlooking an alley, looking at a porta potty. I'm like, when am I going to start rolling in some of those benefits? Huh? You know what I mean?
I'm gonna have to ask Senator Tim Scott about this, because I don't know if you're telling me the truth about white people or not.
Yes, turn to Tim Scott, who's just, by the way, sent me another email today. Okay. A fundraising email, which is really
for Trump or for himself.
For himself. Forget Trump, man. It's all about Tim now. Okay, it's Tim time. All right. So this is really upsetting that it's come to this, Monroe.
And guess what? The Republicans had these long speeches about why they weren't going to vote for the confirmation, and they've had to tear them up because there's a distraction of some sort.
By the way, so help me out here, because you've been watching and we've been on the air talking local issues. So I've missed everything. Tomorrow I'll be able to discuss this at length, but right now I've missed it all. So how far into the process were they before the protest? 10 minutes?
10 minutes.
Oh, so they didn't even,
15, maybe 15, not very much.
So there had been no speeches. They had,
no, there've been some, I'm talking about of speeches. McConnell's speech was like they were destroying, don't do this vote, they were destroying democracy. I mean, it was something he should have said 3 years ago, at least, that he's finally gotten around to saying with the barbarians at the gates.
Monroe, let me ask you that. I think a lot about this because I defended Adam Kinzinger, who's a congressman from Northern Illinois, 16th Congressional District, because he actually has been more proactive. in criticizing MAGA for their tactics and criticizing Trump for his clear attempt to subvert the will of the people. How far do you go in praising Republicans who have defied the mob on this point?
Depends on when they defied them. If it was years ago, I'm cheering for them. If they just got religious in the last 2 or 3 weeks, too little, too late.
And how about the last 10 minutes? When the mob, maybe we went too far.
We're talking about a conversion in the foxhole. Oh, Lord. Forgive me.
Literally a foxhole conversion. On second thought.
Right, exactly.
Can we redo that impeachment vote?
Right, exactly. Right, exactly.
By the way,
we didn't know he was going to become this much of a Frankenstein monster.
let's just take a moment to talk about the phone call.
But they've stopped the vote count, literally. So protesters have brought all this stuff to a screeching halt.
Which is, I guess, their intention, right?
Yeah, I guess.
I guess the ultimate.
But no, their intention is for Congress to say, never mind, Trump can stay. They're serious about this, these crazy people.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Let's go back to our list of things we were going to discuss before we were so rudely interrupted by Trump's thugs.
Right.
By the way, it's interesting.
Stormtroopers.
His stormtroopers, when it's protesters who are protesting police violence against black people, they're thugs.
Right.
You know, and bring in the National Guard and arrest them. And, and I didn't see any of them storming the Capitol ever, you know?
Right. No, one of my right wingers has posted. He says, Dems in fear, no question mark. Just Dems in fear against the statement. Did you see the march in Washington? Remember the old adage about Trump being scorned? Now comes the fury, the populist wave.
Wow.
Right. I know.
Really don't quite know what to say to that, except it's frightening times.
I know. No, so they, there are a sizable number of Americans who are backing this. And they're pictures of cops with guns drawn on the protesters. Because the media got their cameras cut off. They were inside taking videos, but some of the media has gotten its cameras cut off, and the others are scared. Because the other thing is they've been taunting reporters, and because those fake news people.
Don't believe what you're seeing with your eyes, America. Believe what we're telling you. It's all fake news.
Right. See, this is going to be the straw that broke the camel's back.
What do you mean?
For those people who still, except for the fanatics, of course, those Americans, middle of the road Americans, are Americans who thought that what the Republicans are doing is okay, or looked the other way when all this was going down. This image is going to be burned in the minds of Americans, and it's not going to go well for the Republicans.
Well, I hope so, and it's Monroe. It's something that's been building. Right. Since the pandemic, and you and I have been talking about it every Wednesday for 4 years. But I go back to Operation Gridlock, which is the protest that occurred in Michigan. I think it was back in March, early April.
Yeah.
Where Trump
Went in with the guns. Yeah.
Yeah, they had guns. They had Confederate flags.
Yeah.
And they were all maskless. And I said, oh, well, this image, and they were waving Nazi, the swastikas.
Yeah.
I go, this image will definitely move a mainstream America. 74 million people voted for that image.
Right.
Now, maybe this has gone too far, do you think, to see?
The problem now is that was like a small little platoon or something. This is a regiment.
And it comes, of course, one day after.
They've been tear gassing the people inside.
In the Senate.
In the Capitol building.
In the Capitol.
They're all over. They're not just in the Senate. They're all over. It's a mess. I mean, it's no violence, no shots have been fired yet.
And of course, it's the day after, as I was jubilation. Monroe and I were last night on the phone, very jubilant when the votes were coming in Georgia.
Right.
And let's contrast the two.
Yeah.
In one, you had a peaceful exhibition of democracy, where people exercise their constitutionally protected right to vote and select their representatives, and they did.
Except your president has been tweeting that they stole the election in Georgia, that they cheated. But the Republicans won, not the Democrats.
Well, nonetheless, it was still. I thought it was
right. We felt good about it.
And now we're watching lawlessness.
Right.
More baseless accusations by the president. He feels no compulsion to have any evidence whatsoever before he makes a claim and an assertion on Twitter, which fires up his cultists who have decided that they don't need any evidence whatsoever. The lack of existence of evidence is in itself somehow or other a justification of whatever they want to believe in, Monroe. So it's just madness, and it leads to this. People storming through the Congress. And last night we were so jubilant because in the real display of democracy, the Democrats won and Trump was repulsed. And I do believe that was ultimately an anti-Trump vote yesterday.
It was the black vote that came out in incredible numbers, thanks to Stacey Abrams and others. I mean, she didn't do it by herself, but she was the leader on it. But anyway, it was an incredibly large black vote, very high percentage. In the meantime, the Republican white vote was suppressed, and not dramatically, but just not as much as it had been even when Trump was on the ticket in November. And some of them said they stayed home because the election was rigged, and why should they bother?
Mm-hmm.
And then others stayed home because they had been told that they shouldn't vote. I mean, there were billboards in Georgia telling them not to vote, Republicans.
Mm. And by the way, when you say suppressed, you don't mean literally that the powers that be were keeping people from voting. You're saying that people on their own chose not to vote.
Right.
So the Republican vote was down.
It was down.
Yeah. Okay. Big distinction there.
No, it was down because you had some Republicans, leaders, telling them not to vote, telling Republicans not to vote. And Trump played a significant role in it because he was attacking the governor, Kemp. He was attacking the Secretary of State because they didn't steal votes for him. He wanted 11,780 votes because he lost by 11,779 votes. So he just needed one vote more.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is, of course, is that train has left the station. It left the station on December 14th. But since Trump is not exactly a constitutional scholar, some of this he didn't understand, or he didn't care. I'm not sure.
No, I think he doesn't care.
Right. He doesn't know the Constitution. Now, I bet 10 grand that he's never read the Constitution in his entire life.
No, he doesn't. I've given up on trying to figure out what Trump thinks as opposed to what he doesn't think. You follow what I'm saying? Because he's just a con man.
Right.
So, he's just a con man. So in this particular instance, when he calls up the Secretary of State over the weekend of Georgia, just like a few days before Congress is supposed to officially count the votes, the Electoral College votes that will make Joe Biden the president, to certify what we already know. He doesn't care if the Constitution says it one way or the other. He just figures, he's the boss. It's like,
well, no,
they're going to do what he says.
The thing is, he is psychological about losing. And so it's really like driving him madder, crazier, that he has lost. He has actually lost. And the other thing is he's about to lose his get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
And that's of some concern to him. And in the meantime, there are, as a result of this siege, there are new calls for him to be impeached again.
Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
You were one, if not making the call, then at least raising the question as to whether he should be impeached.
Yeah.
And as we speak, it's about 2 weeks he's got before the inauguration.
Yeah, he has 2 weeks.
I presume that this push that we're seeing in the halls of Congress right now will not be successful and not lead to a coup. And all right, so I'm just working from that assumption.
Right.
So
that's a safe assumption.
Yeah. All right. I'm just going to work from that assumption. And I would also going to work from the assumption that a solid majority of Americans, even some who voted for Donald Trump, do not support an insurrection like this. Okay.
Right.
And would view it as treason. So having said all that, do you think it's the Democrats should pursue impeachment of Donald Trump in light of the fact that he only has 2 weeks left to go in his presidency?
I have mixed emotions about that. I kind of sort of think they should impeach him again, because if they impeached him now, and I think it could carry over into the next session if he was already under impeachment. And the thing is, this time they'll have the Senate votes to convict him. They could have a real trial, and he could never run for office again. But on the other hand, maybe they should just censure him. And I think in the cold light of day, several months from now, it's gonna occur to a lot of Americans what a horrible human being and president he's been, and so he couldn't get elected dog catcher. But who knows? His people are so rabid.
Yeah, it's so counterintuitive. when you impeach a president, you're removing that president from office. To impeach Donald Trump after he has left office just is counterintuitive to most voters to be like, the guy's not president anymore. So why bother going with an impeachment? And really what you're saying is that he has to be held accountable.
Right. And
for breaking the law.
He won't be. If he's actually impeached, he can never hold public office again. But that may be overkill in the sense of given his age and given all the horrible things he's done to the American people, that once Biden and Harris are in office and and now that they have the Senate, they will actually be able to get things done. Mm-hmm. And so in short order, it will be on display. The difference between competent government and incompetent government, compassionate government versus whatever type of thing Trump has been doing. So, I think a realization will come.
I'm like you, Monroe. I have really mixed feelings about it because there's so much bigger fish to fry for the Democrats when they take control of the Senate, when Biden becomes president. We're in the middle of a pandemic. And then so there's just the whole issue of how to stimulate the economy, how to get people back to work, how to get people the money they need to survive, how to get vaccines to across the country and to end the pandemic. I mean, there's just it's an overwhelming situation that that Biden is facing, and I just to put on the agenda an impeachment that would just grind everything to a halt while you had a trial. I just think it's kind of so. I've actually talked myself out of it, and he will be pursued. You and I both know this. The law enforcement, the prosecutors in New York are coming after him on other issues having nothing to do with that phone call. So it's not as though he's going away scot-free.
Yeah. God, some of the protesters are chasing a Capitol cop up the street, up the stairs.
Breaking news from Monroe. He has the advantage of being able to watch it on TV, and I'm sitting here watching Monroe watch it, and you got to see his face. Monroe Anderson's been around a few years. He's seen a lot of things.
This guy's calling for backup because he's trying to. Okay, but anyway, no. Okay, some more cops are showing up now, so it's going to be a standoff. Although they're still outnumbered. This is incredible, but I'm sorry. So this is the thing is Trump. The reason Trump is so outrageous is he's gotten away with all the bad things he's done for a long time, and so he needs to pay the price beyond just being evicted from the White House. He needs to go to jail.
He needs to go. By the way, folks, I'm just going to say this. Years from now, people should listen to this podcast to appreciate the insanity of what is happening in America right now. Now, you can't see this. So I can't see what Monroe's seeing. I could just look at Monroe on my screen, looking at it, and his face is like the disbelief in his eyes.
Right. Because the other thing is they have climbed out on a balcony and they're replacing the American flag with a Trump flag.
Speechless right now.
Right, I know, it's amazing. It's amazing.
They're replacing an American flag with a Trump flag. You've seen this?
Yes, I was watching it.
And how did they treat the American flag? Did it touch the ground? Or you don't know?
No, I don't know.
Wasn't there going to be some kind of like a constitutional ban?
They had them both up together. Maybe they left the American flag up too. Because, this is TV, so they cut away. I'm not out there. I'm not giving you an eyewitness on the scene report. So I only can tell you what I see on TV.
And all I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, is the look of dismay on Monroe's face. Monroe Anderson began his journalistic career in 1968. It was a baby-faced, like 10-year-old or whatever he was, covering as an intern for Newsweek the 1968 Democratic Convention here in Chicago, where he watched in dismay with a helmet on his head as Chicago police beat up hippies and anti-war protesters. And Monroe.
Right. They beat me too.
Just between you and me, he probably earned a whack or two. But no, just kidding. But now here we are, Monroe, 60 years later, 50 years later, and we're watching like the people who are supporting the police fighting the police.
Right. You know, and I've had these sorts of debates with right wingers on Facebook. Pre-Trump even, where they were, you know, talking about how nobody was going to take their guns. They tried to take their guns, what they were going to do. And I would say to them, you mean to tell me that if American police or American soldiers show up at your door to take your gun, that you're gonna shoot them? And I never really got a hardcore answer on that one, because that's a dilemma. You can't love the cops and love the military and shoot them at the same time.
Yeah. Well, that's the mixed message that Donald Trump is dealing with, because he's called for an insurrection.
Right.
And he's got what he wanted. And now suddenly there's images on the screen of his supporters with their Trump flags fighting cops. It's like, well,
they left the American flag up. Okay. So I'm seeing them flying. There's some other flag, some black flag. I don't know what it says, and they're putting up the "Don't Tread on Me" flag too. Lots of flags. I mean, they're hoisting. I mean, they're hoisting. They're flying them.
Any Confederate flags that you see?
Not yet.
Okay.
But they so far only 4.
And there's nobody, and you're watching the Trump supporters, MAGA people, putting the flags up right now, and there's no police around them at all?
No, because they're outside, and it's a big crowd, and so the cops can't get to them. The police can't get to them. It's like I say, it's 75, 100 people all gathered around the flag pole, or it's on the building. But it's I mean, you'll see it later on. This is amazing. I mean, considering it's the U.S. Capitol, and these are the patriots.
Patriots being in quote.
Yes, right. That's what they call themselves.
I thought they called themselves the Proud Boys. And by the way, this goes back to that first debate with Donald Trump.
Right.
Where Chris Wallace said, "Well, are you going to condemn your supporters and Trump's who are racist?" And Trump's like, "Which supporters? Which ones?" And Biden, you got to give him credit. It was his greatest moment of the debate. Kept saying, "The Proud Boys, the Proud Boys."
I think his greatest moment of the debate was when he said, "Shut up, man." But that was the second greatest.
Would you shut up, man?
Yeah, right.
It's come down to this, Monroe. It's come down to this.
And Biden is Biden is about to do a speech on address the nation on the lockdown and the siege of the nation's capital by the Trump supporters.
Wow. And so so they have effectively, as you said, suspended action. So there will be no confirmation vote or counting of the electoral ballots. So I guess if Congress can't convene.
Right. No, the plan, I think, is to treat it like a shooter, active shooter, where the police and the military come in and they make everybody leave and they sweep the building for bombs and explosives and everything. Then they can get back to business. But it's obviously going to be late.
Yeah. So they'll have, it'll be a late night in Congress, and I'm sure we'll be talking about this tomorrow a lot. And I'm sure you and I will be talking about, although who knows? I mean, everything we were going to talk about we pretty much threw out the window because of this breaking. We still covered most of it.
Here's my post. Let me read my post.
Go ahead.
Should Black Americans thank Trump for unintentionally giving us a Black woman vice president and the first Black senator from the South? Instead of asking Blacks, what do you have to lose? Should he have asked, what do you have to gain? After delivering Biden to the White House and a number of other key Democratic victories, will Democrats ever take the Black voter for granted again? And then it's Ben and I will discuss these and other issues like storming of the Capitol.
So, Monroe, what do you think about that last point that you raised, which is a really good one? Will Democrats ever take the Black vote for granted again?
No, they will not. They will not, because it's it's nothing like a deliverance to change somebody's mind forever. So no, they won't. The thing is, and having been on both sides, I know this, is that politicians love voters and support them. They just love them, and they answer your phone. The only person that gets better treatment is if you give them money. Your vote is good, but your money would be better. Your money and your vote.
Yeah, money counts.
Right. And I think a lot of Black people were contributing small amounts of money to their Dems too.
Yeah. Well, I know that a lot of the turnout in this last election, not just the presidential race, but the special elections in Georgia, was linked to just revulsion over Donald Trump.
Right.
And it was personal. And Donald Trump condemned so many Black people down to this 4 years.
Right.
And he got into a pissing match with LeBron James.
Right.
And that's just one that pops to my mind, you know, like.
And Black football players.
Yeah, who took the knee, as opposed to Black football players who took the knee to him. You know what I'm saying? Herschel Walker. Right. And, it's just so needless confrontation, which.
Well, he's a racist. So he doesn't like Black people. I mean, during his 4 years, he did everything he could to erase the Obama legacy.
Yeah.
His attorney generals have been violating civil rights, not protecting them. I mean, he's just been a terrible person, and these things do not go unnoticed among my people.
Well, I truly hope that these efforts, the Black turnout remains high, and I also, to the point you were making, hope that Joe Biden and the Senate Democrats don't lose sight.
No, they won't.
They don't lose sight.
This is what you have to factor in, which is delicious, is that if there is a tie in the Senate on anything between the Republicans and the Democrats, a Black woman gets to cast the vote to break the tie.
Absolutely. Kamala Harris. All right, Monroe, we pretty much run out of time for this segment. I know we'll be talking about this next week. This.
I'm sorry that the Trump thugs interrupted what would have been a good session.
Yeah, well, there's always next week. It was a beer hole putsch. We'll see how it plays out. And I know we'll be talking about this next week. So in the meantime, you stay safe and sound, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday, all right?
All right. Okay. Get some sun.
Yes. Polar Bear Ben.
All right. Talk to you.
Take care, man. The great Monroe Anderson, a legend in this town. D, this one is for the books. I'm telling you, we were so excited. I called Monroe last night. We were watching the votes come in, or I was watching them on my cell phone. He was watching them on the boob tube. And we were like, we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about that. We had this whole list of things we're going to talk about. He comes on the air, and the Trumpsters, the MAGA, had stormed Congress, and that's what this conversation turned into. And I think, boy, I'll be listening to this one about 5 years in utter disbelief at what happened. What happened in the final days of the Trump presidency? Really staggering stuff. Do you got any updates before we head out that door?
No, let's end the show. This is insane.
Yeah. DC National Guard has been activated as chaos unfolds inside U.S. Capitol. One person has been shot. This is a headline that just came across my phone from the Washington Post. And then I got the following text, which I think sums it up even better from my wife. And it says this: holy fucking shit. D, I think that pretty much sums up America right now. Donald Trump's America. So yeah, you're probably right. I don't think there's anything else we could say. So we pretty much should close the show down. We're gonna do a back half, but I say
today was a roller coaster, man.
Yeah, it was a roller coaster indeed. All right, I want to thank Monroe Anderson for doing an outstanding job as he always does. Of course, the man, the myth, the legend, in the midst of the roller coaster. He rode that roller coaster, didn't bat an eye.
And even cracked a Ben's really white joke in there. That was good.
Dude, I'm so white. Whiter shade of pale. Anyway, down home in Alton, they call him Dr. D. Give yourself a raise, take it out of petty cash. Take care, everybody.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone.
Big problems. Big problems. Big problems become big problems when you let small problems sit.
Good afternoon, everyone.